mighty empire productions.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Put That on My List, this show where people come in, tell me to watch movies, and they come with the questions. I'm Trey Jones, the programming director of SCSU TV, and across from the table here is my guest, Spencer Lane, / co-host, soon to be. Would you like to greet yourself or say anything extra?
I am the guest today. I may be the co-host in the future episodes, but today I have brought you questions about this great movie I recently watched called The Usual Suspects.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
Well, yes, because you told me to.
Yep. You put it on your list.
I did. I put it on my list, but now I can take it off my list because I've seen it. So
All right. Did you like it?
I did like it. You know, as just to get sort of that hurdle of liking out of the way, I did like the movie.
You liked the movie?
I had a lot of interesting thoughts about it, but I figured you could come to the questions first, and eventually our discussion will devolve from that format into just talking. So why don't you start? What is your first question for me?
My first question, this is an easy question. What did you think of Benicio del Toro's accent in the film? I'll tell you what I thought. It was a bit distracting for me. I feel like he could have enunciated more. He could have, I feel like his words were very, very slurred, and it kind of took me out of it. But I will say he was probably one of my more, I liked his character a lot more than some of the other characters.
Yeah, well, I'll say this to start out with. I did sometimes have a harder time understanding what he was saying. I didn't exactly know what accent he was emulating. Exactly. I feel like he was kind of riffing and making his own thing. But looking at the poster, because you got the iconic shot of them all lined up together at the police precinct or whatever.
Yes.
And he's in the middle and with the red shirt and everything. And so I always just assumed he was the main character.
Me too.
So obviously when I was like, oh, I can't really tell what this guy's saying, most of the time I was like, oh, that might be a problem. But then, by the way, we're going to spoil this. So
I was wondering about spoilers because you can't talk about The Usual Suspects fully in depth without getting into spoiler territory.
Okay, yeah. Turn off the episode if you haven't seen this already, and go put the movie on your list, and then immediately watch it, and then we give you permission to come back.
Yes.
So we're going to spoil it. But anyways, yeah, he doesn't last very long. Well, he lasts like halfway the movie. But
he lasts longer than one of the other Usual Suspects, I will say. But
one of the more unusual of the usual.
Yeah. But I really did think he was the main character. And I feel like you don't hear much about anyone else in that movie that isn't Benicio del Toro. Like, when I think of The Usual Suspects, I go, well, who's in that movie? Benicio del Toro. And that was the extent of who I knew from the movie before I watched it.
Yeah, I didn't know Kevin Spacey was in it. I was just thinking when he came on screen, he was really going to be doing his Seven shtick, which I think this movie came out before. Was it before Seven? Seven was like, what, 97 maybe?
I don't know.
I don't know. It's the 90s. But yeah, he was big, doing a lot of villainous stuff before the other villainous stuff.
He was Lex Luthor in Superman Returns, 2006.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
I watched it when I was a child. Superman's my favorite superhero. Thought he was all right in that, you know?
Yeah.
Just to let you both know, the films came out in the same year.
Okay.
The films came out in the same year.
So the voice of God has come down and told us that the films came out in the same year. So yeah, thank you for that. So that explains a lot.
No problem.
Well, before we get too carried away talking about Superman, which, that's a very current topic, but before we get carried away with that, I'll just say, to close my thoughts on your first question,
yes.
I thought it was kind of a funky accent, but I kind of went with it because it was like they say, in Save the Cat, it's the main bit of character advice for if you have a character and you don't know what to do with them is to give them a limp and an eye patch. There's already a character with a limp in the movie, and it's not Del Toro's character, but in the spiritual sense, he has a limp and an eye patch with the accent. So I guess you remember him for that.
You do. I want to address probably the best performance in the movie was Kevin Spacey's.
Yeah, to be honest, it was.
I can see why he had multiple movies come out in the same year. He was an acting machine.
Yeah, it was like Jim Carrey, but like dramatic.
Yeah, because I really like, I did not know this whole movie. I was confused in a good way because I was like, who is Kaiser Sose? What is his deal? Why is Kevin Spacey so afraid of him?
Yeah, I'll have to say this. I watched this movie with my parents in the room. I was just kind of originally planning on watching it by myself, but then they were like, oh, we should watch a movie together. And I was like, okay, well, if we're going to watch a movie together, I'll just watch the thing that I have to watch for this show. So I did that. And I got to be completely honest, my mom was saying from the start that she was expecting Kevin Spacey to stop limping at any moment and be the bad guy all along.
What?
Yep. And I was like, maybe she's just read too many books to watch too many films. She's been around the block, so I guess, you know.
I watch movies, but the twist fully caught me off guard. I really didn't expect it because I think it's like a double fake out where you're like, oh, well, it's got to be someone on The Usual Suspects, but then it's not revealed to be any one of The Usual Suspects, like, because they all get clipped on the boat, and then you're like, huh.
Well, you have this very convenient sort of mysterious person, which it's nice because it's both convenient as a way to throw us, the audience, off, but because Kevin Spacey is throwing, or Verbal's the character name, he's throwing off the detective and making up most of the movie's events. The fact that all the usual suspects are getting killed off by some guy that we haven't met before, it could be anybody, but the whole unreliable narrator aspect of the movie, I think, was what made it work.
Yeah.
I think a very comparable movie to this in terms of the art of the twist would be
Oh man. Oh, this is bad.
No, yeah, this is bad. Oh man, why do you have this?
I don't want to derail your train of thought, but
say your thing while I don't pay attention to you and remember the movie.
Okay.
Name.
Let's
The Prestige. The
The Prestige. There you go.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it.
Thank you.
I haven't seen it.
Oh well, it's a twisty movie.
It's a twisty movie. Okay.
So I guess you put that on your list because that's the name of the show.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll have you host another day where I go to you with the questions about The Prestige because I would always be willing to watch that movie again. But it's a similarly twisty movie where the idea is the art of the twist is it's never like, oh, the butler did it, but the butler didn't do it. And you're kind of going between those two choices. You can never give the audience two choices. It's got to be like 35. And then the choice that you go with is the 36th they didn't mention.
Whoa. Okay.
Because it's always like you give them a twist that they can kind of, that the audience can kind of get. But then you reach even further and you give them something extra you weren't expecting. So something I'll say about thinking about The Prestige is you get a twist that you might be able to figure out, but then the next one that's going to happen, you're not going to see it coming.
I have another question for you.
Yes.
This is on the topic of Kaiser Soze. Giancarlo Esposito's character and the whole, I guess, subplot per se of the burn victim who, like, they needed to translate for whatever. How necessary do you really think that was? Or was that like, because when I was originally watching, I was like, where is this going? Like, what, they can't understand him. What is Giancarlo Esposito even doing? I feel like the brunt of the story comes from Verbal's flashback moment in the police office. What was your opinion on the B plot of Giancarlo Esposito's character finding this burn victim and attempting to get Kaiser Soze's image out of him?
Well, I'll be honest in saying that for the fact that I think it was the most forgettable aspect of the film, in a film that's trying to throw you off constantly, forgettability is an important tool. And I think the whole thing about them sort of establishing this burn victim really early in the film, but then not having the payoff be until the last 30 seconds, essentially, where you get the chance to forget that this whole subplot is taking place, where they're trying to figure out what Kaiser Soze looks like. And you don't even know at the beginning of the film that they're trying to figure out who Kaiser Soze is, because the when the guy says Kaiser Soze, that's the first time you're hearing the name. So I think from a writing standpoint for this kind of movie, which is not your usual sort of movie, it's a mind game type thing.
Yeah.
I think it worked. But like the thing I always think with movies like this, where it's an authorial versus audience sort of thing, where it's a very meta idea, where like the screenwriter is trying to throw the audience off, and the audience is trying to catch up with the screenwriter. You can kind of forget that these characters we're supposed to be imagining that they're real people.
Yeah.
And that's the slippery slope that can come as a result of writing for an audience and not writing for the story.
Okay.
That's just a little nugget of storytelling controversy, or like, it's a subject a lot of people sort of go back and forth on, like, when franchises for multiverse crossover movies happen, and you're like, nobody's going into this movie thinking that it's not a movie or getting immersed, because they're going to be like, ooh, I know who that guy is. It's that actor. And it's like, there's no immersion whatsoever.
The greatest example of that is Spider-Man, the third one with Tom Holland, where if you watch that movie for the plot and the story, you are not watching that movie.
Or the even more famous example, which was the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, when Matt Pat comes on screen.
Dude, that was awesome.
And he says, that's just a theory.
Well, yes, but do you think the Five Nights at Freddy's movie is written well up to that point, or do you think it's just like...
I just had fun with it.
Yeah, right? It's just that's, I think, this may be a controversial take. I like fun movies just as much as I like movies like The Usual Suspects, where it's like you have to watch and really pay attention. I like fun movies like Spider-Man, the third one with Tom Holland. I think that's a perfectly fine movie. I like when Andrew Garfield shows up. I cheered in the theater. I was excited. I knew it was happening years before the movie came out.
Yeah, I knew it was happening. I saw the airport photos.
Yeah, but I still enjoyed it. And I think those movies, like I recently saw Captain America Brave New World with this whole Marvel movie thing where it's like, are they cinema? Are they theme park rides, as Scorsese would posit? I think it's just, can we just enjoy movies?
I think we can enjoy movies. I think there's nothing wrong with trying to put definitions for types of movies. Like this is like one of those movies where it's not really about immersion in the
Which
sense
I agree
that
with Scorsese. These Marvel movies they have gotten to the point where it's just you go to be entertained. You don't come for stories anymore for a Marvel movie.
Well, if we get somebody on who's a huge Marvel fan, it's going to be a very fun episode.
I will defend my point, because I will say, tell me the plot of Spider-Man the third one with Tom Holland.
Another time. But I'll say this much in terms of this whole immersion debate about twisty movies.
Yeah.
This movie is immersion, does have immersion, not in like that you're trying to believe that these characters would be real people, but that you're looking at every detail and you're like categorizing characters, and you're trying to like think about moments, like the shot of the of like all the tackle equipment at the docks that Verbal is supposedly hiding behind when the shootout is happening.
Yeah.
But they keep zooming in closer and closer and closer to that tackle box, and I'm just looking at this thing and I'm thinking, I don't see him there because he wasn't there.
I didn't know what that was at first. I was like, why are they showing me this empty screen of stuff?
Yeah.
And then at the end I was like, oh wait, he's supposed to be behind it, but he's not behind it. Okay.
Because he made it up.
Which I think that's when it clicked into place for me. I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. And then, of course, they don't let you... Because as soon as you get it, it's already happened. Like, Kevin Spacey's already running out of the thing.
Yeah, they don't even give you a chance to feel like, oh, man, I really got that. Because, like, that's the thing. My mom was like, oh, I bet he's not really limping. I bet he did it all along. But she probably wasn't expecting the part where, after he's left, the detective turns around and, like, Kobayashi and all these names that he's been talking about the whole movie, they're all just behind him, and he read them, and he made it all up.
That reveal was crazy. I was like, what are all these stupid names? He's right behind me, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, I thought it was like Kobayashi. I just really thought he was going to be a Japanese guy. And
Me
he's
too.
not. But of course, he wasn't. It was an intentional detail that the name didn't match the face because he just got it off a wall.
Yeah.
But that guy, the lawyer, who we don't even know what his name was, does exist. It's like his guy.
It's his guy. I also it was very believable, Kevin Spacey's Verbal's whole thing of like, well, I believe this guy was in a band in Illinois or whatever stories he was telling, because I was like, he seems like he's been around the block. You know, he got caught in a police lineup. They have his number, so I assume he's just a petty criminal who's been around the block. I was like, this all makes sense. And then it made even more sense.
Yes.
When the reveal. Oh, the reveal. Such a good reveal.
It is. I think this was like, sometimes it's like you want to go to a movie like this where it's just like you get to have fun just thinking, like being completely blown away, which is why who knows how many episodes from now, but before you leave, we're going to do an episode on The Prestige. So
Prestige. Okay. I'll put it on my list.
To get back to the whole question asking aspect, I don't know what question number you're on at this point.
I think we're at 2.
Oh, okay. So what's 3?
You can. Do you not have a question? I have a.
Well, you're supposed. This is put that on my list.
Okay.
The show where you bring the movie and you bring the questions.
Okay.
I'm not asking you any questions. It's not in the contract.
Okay. My third question is. I'm trying to think, because we talked about Giancarlo Esposito's character. That was good. Benicio del Toro's accent.
Mm-hmm.
I asked you before about Kevin Spacey, which I thought he was really good. I gave this movie a 9 out of 10.
Okay.
What is your rating for it out of 10? And then I guess you can justify as much as you want.
I'll split that rating up into different categories.
Okay.
Cinematically, I'd give it like a 7 or a 7.5 in terms of actual like composition and lighting. Like it was good, but like kind of for its time, a lot of movies looked like that.
Yeah.
You know, it was very, in a lot of ways, plainly shot, but at the same time, the editing in terms of like cutting back and forth between like 8 subplots and flashbacks, that was where it really shined. So I'd give that a 9.5 out of 10, because I guess giving a 10 out of 10, just nobody believes you if you say that's a 10 out of 10. So I guess you'll get 9.9 repeating. That'll be my highest rating I give on the show.
Not to interrupt you, but I recently watched a 10 out of 10 movie, or not recently, but it was last semester. I did not think it was going to be a 10 out of 10. It was The Hurt Locker with Jeremy Renner, Anthony Mackie. It was about a bomb diffuser guy. Dude, I don't know what it was, but it was so good. 10 out of 10. If I get to recommend another movie and you haven't seen The Hurt Locker, I will talk about The Hurt Locker on this podcast, and I will be even more excited than The Usual Suspects. Or I can get someone else to talk about The Hurt Locker for me.
Okay. Maybe.
But I would like to, back to you. You were talking about how this is a 9.5 repeating out of 10 for the editing.
The 9.5 for editing, a 7. I'll just say, because I gave so much credit to the editing, I'll say 9.5 for editing and a 7 for cinematography. Mm-hmm. And I'll give 10s across the board for acting. And script, I'd also give it like, here I was. I just gave it a 10. What the heck? I guess ignore everything I just said. And then I guess I would say for the screenwriting, which is the part we talk about the most and is definitely what this movie's most famous for, I would say like a 9.7.
Yeah. Very good writing. It made me, I want to be a writer, but I go back and forth sometimes where I'm like, but is my writing even like, should I even try? And then I watch movies like this and I go, I need to try. Yeah. Because I need to write something even half as good as The Usual Suspects.
Yeah. And it's the type of thing where The Usual Suspects, like the characters, it breaks many a writing law.
Yes.
Like I do a lot of screenwriting. I've read a lot of books about screenwriting, and I have kind of an idea in my head about what a good screenplay is. And the example that comes up is not this movie.
No.
Like my example that comes up is usually like a simpler plot. Like what would be my usual example of a good screenplay? It'd be like
I don't know. You answer that.
12 Angry Men. It'd be like it'd be No Country for Old Men. It would have men in the title.
Yeah.
As the last word of the title.
2.5 Men.
Yes.
That's not a movie.
Okay. But
3 Men and a Baby.
3 Men and a Baby.
okay.
With the ghost in the background. Have you heard that urban legend that there's a ghost in 3 Men and a Baby?
I have
Dude, that would keep me up at night. I was 7 years old. I was watching the top 10 scariest things in movies. Dude.
Was it Screen Rant?
I was a Watch
Or was
Mojo
it
kid.
Okay, it was Watch Mojo.
I was a Watch Mojo
both.
kid.
I was both.
Dude. And I was terrible with it. Like I would get scared so easily, but then right before bed I'd be like, what scary video will I watch tonight?
Okay, but the best place for scary videos in like 2015 was Danger Dolan.
Ooh, I was not a Danger Dolan kid.
Yeah.
I
don't know what
was
happened to
a
that guy, to be fair.
Watch Mojo kid, and then my teenage years, and we could start talking about a movie right after I get over this.
Okay.
I immediately went to commentary YouTube videos. Like I went from top 10s to like your Leafy is Here's, your iDubbbz, your all the terrible people that a 13-year-old boy would love in 2017.
And look how we turned out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
here we are.
Very, very interesting people. But
Do you think the books you've read on this is probably an easy question. The books you've read on screenwriting, how much do you think you've improved? Do you think, let me rephrase it, you've learned more reading screenplays and seeing movies and stuff like acted out, or from like reading about how to write a good one?
There is, and this is a great movie to discuss for this question. There is equal parts usefulness, I'd say, because a screenplay book, or the best of the best of YouTube screenplay guides, because there's a lot of stuff on the internet about how to write, and it's not all helpful.
Yes.
It's so good at telling you what you shouldn't do, as if like you'll be executed if you don't follow it. Like, but then you watch movies and they break all the rules, and yet somehow still those same people who said that you had to follow those rules, they'll give those movies that break the rules they talked about, and they'll say, but this movie's really good.
Yeah.
And that's your example of a good movie right there.
Yeah.
So I guess we kind of overthink it sometimes.
Yeah.
The biggest tool a screenwriter has is their gut. So take that as you will. Like, if you think it will work and you have a marginal degree of success, it probably will.
Yeah.
But, be prepared to not do it if it doesn't.
Yeah. I have an anecdote because I honestly, almost prefer writing for like TV and stuff, because I had the script writing class and I wrote a short film script, and I was like, this is about the length of like what I can do. I almost feel like I'm to put it in a musical term, I almost feel like I'm tone deaf when it comes to actually being able to like write like what's good with writing. I just go off of what I've seen. Like I cannot tell you, like, if someone's like, well, why did you write it like this? I'd be like, because that's how it is in TV and movies. So to answer my own question or loop it back to my own question, I almost feel like the better way for me to learn is by just seeing what works. Because I feel like if people tell you what doesn't work, it's kind of like, well, I'm like, well, why? Like, it doesn't work. Okay, then why are you telling me? And then, like, I don't like putting myself in a box. I don't like being like, well, I have to do it like this, which is why we're in the advanced fiction writing class together.
Oh, yeah.
It's like harder for me to write because I'm like, I have to keep myself constrained. And I still write good stuff, pat myself on the back. I still write good stuff.
I haven't read. I mean, you're in the last group for Stories Due, so
am.
I mean, I have yet to see some of your materials. So.
And I also, my biggest thing is everything has been done up to this point, and this applies to both in the smaller scale with the classroom, but also like just in general with writing and stuff. It's not about writing something well, because you're not in the 21st century, in the year 2025. You're not going to be the first one to write a story about anything anymore. It's all been done. So I think the best way to do it is to see what has been done and go off of what you can do with that, which is what I think my philosophy has been with writing. And I think in our class, in the smaller example, it's just I'm reading all these stories and I'm like, well, I touch on this in my story, or I have this plot in my story that's kind of showing up here. But it's just about like, how can I take what I've done, what I've seen, and push it forward? Because I think that's the next big thing is, you know, if we want people talking about our movies in 20 years, it can't be, well, I've never seen a twist before like this. It's got to be the twist you thought was going to happen. They do it so crazy. It's like,
it's at the end of the day, a lot of the best stories, and this is going to contradict the subject of our show today, but a lot of the best stories are the simple ones that you've heard before, but it's all in the execution.
Yeah.
You know, there's usually, you know, a limp in an eye patch. Like, something changes it up to make this movie different from that movie.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you don't want to have the track record of like M. Night Shyamalan, you know, just chasing that twist, just chasing the high of The Sixth Sense for your entire career, except for that one Avatar live action remake, which I guess had nothing to do with any of that. But if you don't want to be stuck just chasing a feeling of throwing your audience off, you got to look at how you can do things differently by doing them the same.
Yeah.
And that doesn't make any sense.
No,
but that's why you got to think about it.
I hope the listeners get what you're saying, because I think I get what you're saying. This is actually a fun anecdote, or kind of ties it to what we've been talking about. My original story for advanced fiction writing was going to be, I just watched Usual Suspects, and I was like, I want to write something exactly like that. I just want to write a twist. I want to write a crime, like thriller type thing. And then I got like 600 or so words in, and I was like, where is this going? Like, I'm confusing myself writing, because I'm like, what do I want to happen? And I think, and then I went to class, the advanced fiction writing class, and I just got a new idea. And this idea is so much more simple. It's so much more grounded. And I think that's the trick. Is
Okay.
Sometimes you just got to look at it.
It's due in 2 days as of recording this.
Yeah.
Is it done? Or is it nearly done?
It needs to be finalized per se. I have all of the, well, actually I don't have all the story beats. I'm trying this new thing, where I kind of write it from the back forward, because I know how I want it to end. And I'm trying to think of like, how do we get here? Which is a way you can approach all writing, is like, how do we get here? Because there's two, you know, you can either go start and you go, this happens and this happens, but this happens. Or the way I'm trying it now is I write it from the back, and I'm like, how does this happen? How do we get to this
So
point?
you're writing that story about that guy in that place who does that thing?
Yeah, I'm writing the story about the character, because the constraints we have is like, has to be a character, has to be realistic, has to be, has to have conflict. I'm like, I have the ending of the conflict where I'm like, I want him to end up like this.
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna spoil it.
I'm not
I
gonna.
haven't read it.
I have been trying to not spoil it for 4 weeks now. I'm so excited for people to actually read it, because I think the only person I told was my mom.
Okay.
Which is
Moms
going
get
to
know
be
things.
Yes.
My mom knows a lot of things.
That's going to be a continuation. Far into the future, when I'm actually writing stuff for film and TV, I'll keep it very secret, except for my mom. I'll say, Mom, you'll never guess what I'm writing, and I'll probably be breaking NDA, but it's my mom. What are they going to do? What are they going to do? Take my mom to court? This will be used in 20 years when my mom is in court. And they'll go, what did your son say 2025? And I'll go, I can't even remember what I said yesterday.
Well, we are kind of surrounded by cameras right now.
Well, yes, that's the point of a video podcast. I think we've gone on long enough not talking about the movie.
Okay, yeah. I mean, there's application. Here's the thing. Every movie, you learn something in its application. And you were talking about how you watched this movie and you got an idea. And because you wanted to just emulate the movie, you didn't know where to go from there, because it was just, you had the movie in your head when you were writing it. So the lesson to learn, and it'll be the same lesson with every movie we watch, the good and the bad, is you watch movies not to get that instant gratification of being like, oh, I know my next project, and it's just this with like a different coat of paint. It's like, you know, I'm not going to do any more references to indie video game franchises, because like I guess a lot of people don't know what those are. But you got to you got to make a library in your head. You've
Yeah.
got to have a Sherlock Holmes mind palace in your head of
Yeah.
movies, because people aren't going to be able to, as you're right, everything's been made already.
Yes.
People aren't going to be able to tell you're emulating something if you've got, if you emulate like 600 movies at the same time. or something.
Exactly.
So that's the whole thing. I'm learning from this movie, but I'm not going to go and I'm not going to like write a screenplay that's just this movie again. But I'm sure there'll
the
be something.
two usual suspects.
The two usual suspects.
The two usual suspects.
There'll be something probably subconscious that I learned from this film about
Yeah.
twisting, about as I said earlier, about throwing the audience off with giving them the twist they could predict and then twisting again.
Yeah.
You got to have that double twist, because like the single twist has been done and it can't be done
so
again.
many times.
It can't be done again because we all can predict it.
Yeah.
So if you want to write a movie where it's not really about immersing the audience in the world, and instead it's immersing the audience in this guessing game, you've got to play the game right, and you've got to make the payoff worth it.
Yes.
And I guess that is, unless you have any other questions, seeing as we've gotten to this nice, neat little resolution here.
Yeah.
I'd say, we've learned our lesson from this film.
I would like to say that all of this, what we talked about today, is not to say that there isn't space in film and TV for stories that immerse you in the world, for stories that are just plain and simple. This is the story. It's being told with these characters. I think that there is just enough room. As much as I love this movie, I'm a sucker for a good Mr. Mom.
Yeah.
I'm a big Michael Keaton fan. I love The Founder. I love Mr. Mom. There's no twist in either of those movies, but they're in my top two. And I do want to ask, you talk about a library. Am I the only person who's like amassing a collection of like movies that I'm going to show my kids one day, where I'm like I don't want to force them to like any of these movies, but if they don't like Baby Driver or The Founder or La La Land, we might have some problems. Do you have a movie?
I definitely do have a lot of
Okay.
films. I've thought about it more from the kids family movie angle, not as much jumping straight into like
So I shouldn't show
PG-13
my
to
kid Birdman.
not to start. You'll have to be patient.
Yeah.
Now, if they're like 2 to 6 months old, you can show them Birdman fine. They're not going to remember a bit of it, but
They might get scared.
they might. But then they'll sleep and they won't remember.
Okay.
I don't remember anything from before 3. There's something scientific about that.
Yeah,
memory
but this isn't the science
creation.
podcast. This is the movie podcast.
Yeah,
And we talked about the movie,
yeah, we did.
and I think we're...
I can check it off my list.
Aha! Is that going to be your new thing? You say that at the end of every episode?
Yep, I'm gonna do a little. That's my thing.
That's his thing.
That's how we end episodes around here. So I hope that was for our viewers at home. That was very, beneficial to you, entertaining. If you thought we contradicted ourselves, we did, and we will continue to do so. So never try to predict what we think, because even we don't know that. I mean, I'm speaking for you right now.
That's
so
the twist.
That's the twist.
But the real twist, the double twist for me, is I always contradict myself, and I find enjoyment in that.
Yeah. Well, having the enjoyment in contradicting and contradicting plots and thoughts, I hope you had fun with today's episode of Put That on My List. That's the name of the show. Have a good one, and I'll see you another time.
This evening's content was provided by the Mighty Empire Productions YouTube Film Corporation. Thank you for watching, and have a good night.